Welcome to Linux Saloon, a place to discuss tech, open source, and where Linux is always on tap. Each show we have a talk about a Linux project, such as a Linux distribution, desktop environment, or application. We also chat about the news or any variety of topics from the community. Anything that is Linux tech and open source related is on the table for discussion. I'm Nate, a Linux fitness and vintage tech enthusiast with an almost unhealthy obsession with the OpenSUSE project, as I'm printing off little ornaments here for Christmas. And with me today, I got a fantastic panel of people. We've got Colin, Jinda, Magnus, Cruz, and Eris. How is everybody?
Excellent.
Good.
Doing good.
Good.
I'm good.
Excellent. Nice to have you, Cruz. I don't know what you look like, but I don't know what Eris looks like either. I'm guessing he's a penguin.
Good to be here.
That's good to have you. It really is. And I thought Vash was going to join us. He still might join us, and which he does. He's actually got something really cool going on. The Vashinator. I don't know if you pay attention to his channel at all, but in case you do, he's got something cool that he's doing. He's actually got a Steam. He actually has a Steam store because he's actually producing stuff. It's really cool. But anyway, so be sure to do the straw poll if you haven't done so. It'll direct the conversation for today, for this evening. We're going to recapping our the year, like different news and open mic type topics that have been collected over the course of the year. This year, the kind of the top ones that Eris put together. But that's basically what's on the docket. We'll do also some housekeeping and then do a last call. But first, what we've been doing in Linux and tech, Vash, he's not here, but he does have a cool game and on a Steam store. It's pretty cool. If he shows up in here, we'll interrupt the show and we'll have him talk about it. But I was really hoping he'd be here to chat about it because we've been talking. His the latest video he put out is actually really pretty awesome. Like it's a really well produced video. So Vash has really been stepping up his game. I'm sure Jinder will find it. It's pretty cool. But
Yeah, I just posted his YouTube channel.
awesome. But since I don't have anybody else here, unless somebody else has something they want to talk about. You want like maybe Magnus, no, anything?
I also made a small poll before the year changed last year
Okay.
about the future of 2023.
Yeah.
And where I posed some questions, and Nathan, you participated, and I did. Rudra, Larry, Dale, Ben, Pinky, and Swift. And we basically all got the same score, more or less,
Oh yeah.
in foreseeing the future. So, yeah. And I made a new one this year.
Sweet. Do you have that you can share?
Yes.
Yes,
Let me
please
just
do.
find the link. Oh, I posted the image of the 2023 poll in the Telegram chat,
Okay.
and I can just find the link for the next poll. Yeah, here it is. I put it in this chat in the Zoom.
Okay. I'll let Jinda do all that because I'm afraid if I click on something, I might click on the wrong thing. So thanks Jinda for hooking me up. I don't
I'm
mess anything
trying my best.
up. Well, very cool. So this is a new poll that you just that you put that.
Yeah, I put out a new poll. Took some of the questions from the last year's poll and put that in there, the ones that weren't really solved yet. And I added some new questions to that. And then, there are a few more questions in the new poll than the old one. I think only had 8 questions.
Sweet.
And I think the new one has a bit more.
So what?
Maybe it's the same.
What was that something? Like how long did you keep that poll open?
It's open until New Year.
Okay. All right. Cool.
So another, 13 days, I guess.
So let's
14.
let that let's let that one run, and then we can discuss that. It'd be pretty cool. I like these polls. To me, they're fun when you guys do these things. So this is awesome. So thank you. I did want to share with the class, with the extended class here. I was talking about initially before we did that whole go live thing. Yeah, it looks like everything's running properly. But I bought myself an Atari VCS with the wood grain because you can't have they have like a black Onyx one, but like you gotta have the wood grain, Anyway, and so it's basically just a PC. And it's pretty much an open PC. it runs some form of Linux on there. It's this Atari OS thing, and it's not very performant. It's an AMD like a first generation Ryzen. It's got like I think 2 core, 4 threads, something like that. So it's not a whole lot of power, but it'll do about that of PlayStation 3 era games. So and I've been enjoying it, and it has like a bunch of Atari games on there. It's got a really nice carousel, also some Atari like arcade games on there, and I don't have the controllers here, but it has like it comes with a joystick and like a modern controller. Looks like the old joystick, but actually has like the stick also acts as a paddle, so you can play the paddle games. So that's very cool. I need to get a few more of those, but it's hard to play Warlords against yourself, the old Atari game. So anyway, what I decided to do is I want to do a little more with this thing. Like what Atari gives you is okay. It's fine. But I wanted to squeeze a little more out of it. So I upgraded there's a slot in there so you can put the longer, not the super long one, but the longer M.2. I can't remember the nomenclature on it offhand. And there's actually 3 different sizes. The board will actually accept that. And then I upgraded the RAM to its maximum of 32 gigabytes to just because. And anyway, I put as you might guess, I put OpenSUSE on there and Tumbleweed, and just to install like Steam and then make it kind of like a media set-top box basically. It's like a home theater PC. That's kind of what I want to make out of it. And so far, it's been pretty great. The one downside is as I was taking it apart, I happened to like when I took the antennas off that for the wireless and the Bluetooth, I ended up ripping the connectors. It was very gentle. I used a plastic little spudger thing too, and I ripped the connectors it must have been a bad solder or something, but it came right off the board. Never have had that happen before. Jinda, you said you've worked on like dozens of laptops.
Never seen it.
I've never seen that happen before. So I don't know if it's a bad part or a bad antenna. Either way, I have another Realtek just like that ordered, which is like $7 or something like that on eBay. So
And $9 to ship it.
yeah, no, actually, it's free to ship.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, and then I got some antennas on the whole little Amazon thing that came today. So right now I have an Intel NIC in there, wireless NIC. I don't know if it has Bluetooth built into it or not. I didn't test that aspect of it, but you can't do a whole lot with it without antennas. So although it did barely pick up the wireless in here, so that was kind of good. So I'm going to just use the Intel for now since I won't get the Realtek won't show up until January, I guess. They're shipping it on the slow boat from California or something like that. So, but so far though I really like it, except for that one aspect of it. It wasn't too hard to take apart. You had to like kind of be careful with like there's 2 USB slots, spots at USB 3 in the front here. So those are separate boards that sit on the bottom. So you have to like open up a latch to basically pull the ribbon cables out on each side before you pull that out. And actually they use a Torx, a 10. Yeah, I think the T10. Yeah, for everything. So you can only need one screwdriver basically to work on the entire thing, which is kind of nice. And yeah, everything outside of me breaking the Wi-Fi, it was a pretty nice experience taking it apart and everything else. They even did like the screw holes are underneath the rubber feet, but like it's not glued in. They actually have a spot so you can actually just pull this up right and out, and then you can access the holes. So they made it, kind of clever and easy to fix. So anyway, easy to access, I should say. So that's pretty cool. Again, except for breaking the Wi-Fi, the little connectors off the board, it's pretty nice to work on. But I'm not the only one. I saw on Atari Age, the forum, that some other people have done that too. So maybe it's soldered on. I guess maybe I should just remove the entire card, and then I wouldn't have had the problem. So there we are. I wasted $20 because of I did. So there we go. So
I guess it's one of those once you plug it in, you just don't plug it out kind of peripherals.
something like that.
Yeah.
I I need to fix my
I've
mic.
never had that happen either. I don't think they must have like super thin pads, and the attachment to the board must be super flaky as well.
Yeah, it must have been just a bad, like a cold solder or something like that, because it has to be a cold solder. I've never even pulled a solder apart before just like that. So, what can you do? So, yeah, computers are fun. That was so frustrating. How many? I'm just curious. Just gonna kick this off. How many? Have you had any computer repairs just go sideways on you, or upgrades? Like, have you ever had like something just go like this is gonna be really easy, in and out, 5 minutes, and then everything just kind of goes to, you know, a handbasket.
I mean, there was a time when AMD chips, like 20 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
where they had some very, very sensible or sensitive attachment from the die to the chip, and if you mounted the cooler with a little bit too much force, that it would break the connections between the die and the pins. And I had that happen for me once when I had to. I just wanted to upgrade the cooler because back then there was just like the Sempron Athlon era of AMD CPUs, and the CPU in a box, the standard fans that you could buy with those AMD CPUs, they were super noisy back then. So the best thing you could do with an AMD machine back then was just to get another cooler, and I did that, and I broke off the connections between the die and the chip, and it was dead. So I had to buy a new one.
Yeah. So with my MacBook Pro, been having issues with the right speaker kind of buzzing and it's annoying. It affects how the sound comes through. And so I finally ordered some screwdrivers, thinking, okay, I'll take the back panel off, the speakers, I'll take a look. Maybe it'll look like something's wrong and I can go from there. Wrong answer, because it's all these steps to get to this and all these steps to get to that. And you got to be kidding me. And so it's the reason why I'm glad I don't buy Apple laptops, because they do foolishness like this, and I'll be so happy when I get my framework laptop, because then that'll change the game completely.
Well, I
Yeah,
think some of
that's
the
pretty cool.
laptops that, oh, sorry, Magus. I think some of the laptops are a little more difficult to take together, to take apart and put back together than others. But as they get cheaper, they just get harder and harder to take apart. It's just as a thing would do with manufacturing and making it cheap. So now you have a flash drive soldered to the board to be your hard drive, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I've taken some laptops apart and someone asked me to fix them, and I'm like, they're basically, unfortunately, to the dumpster is all they're worth. I'm sorry to say that. I hate throwing things away. I have one of them that I use all the time. I use it once a week. That is absolute garbage. It's glued together with hot glue due to the fact that it's so cheap. It broke, and I just glued it back together with hot glue and stood on it and said, if it works, it works. If it don't, it don't. It's been running ever since.
That's a good story.
Yeah, that actually worked, but a lot of them unfortunately don't. Usually they go in the dumpster, but this one's still hot glued together.
I've had my share of cheap laptops, and it's always the screen mount, or like if they're really plasticky, the paint rubs off where your hands are, and that kind of stuff is like terrible. I've just stopped buying those things because the expensive ones, they last longer, because you use a little bit more money, but they just last much longer, dollar wise than the cheap ones.
My one friend buys cheap ones because he goes on the airport a lot. And now it's understandable why you would want a crappy one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He left it open to log out, and one of the TSA guys folded it the wrong way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's like, okay, just put it in the bin.
So I want to share one thing. Like, the framework laptop, which Swift, you won't be disappointed. This thing is held together with like magnets, and I'm gonna show you here. So like, this is all held on with magnets.
Wow.
Nice.
Wow.
There's no glue, none of that nonsense. The base of this thing, it's held on by 5 captive screws. I think it's 5,
Sheesh.
and then has magnets there to help guide it in place. And
Oh,
so it's easy to work on. Like it's amazing how well this is done. And then so I took this thing on a flight with me, and I wasn't really concerned about, I went to Latvia. I wasn't concerned about this getting damaged because I knew I could fix it. It didn't get damaged, but it did get kind of squashed a little bit, but no worse for the wear. And it's fine. It's very well constructed. It's solid, and you can work on it. And so it's like it's a great machine. Like I am super impressed by the framework. And the other nice thing too is when if I were to bust a port, I can just replace that port. I mean, how many laptops have you like just ripped a port apart and then
Yeah, that and keyboards.
Yeah.
Keyboards where a key just suddenly stops working.
oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
that has happened so many times for me.
So with my 2010 MacBook, I spilled a little bit of water on the keyboard. Next thing I know, most of the keys don't work no more, and
Yeah.
power button's weird, and it's like, this is ridiculous. And I looked up, well, how do I replace the keyboard? Big deal. I don't mind paying for it if it's reasonable. And then it's like, what? Oh, it's not even worth it. No. I can use
Right.
it, but I just have to be more creative. I'm glad you brought up about the framework, though, because that kind of takes what ThinkPads have done from a classic standpoint and take it to the next level.
Mhm.
Because I have several ThinkPads actually in the same room that I'm in right now, whether it's an X60, X201, or a T420 right over here. And they are nice to open, they're nice to get into, whatever you want to look at, replace. I mean, it's there. I've done screen replacements on it without being some kind of expert or something. Wasn't a problem.
Mhm.
Fortunately, with the Apple stuff that I have, I didn't pay for it, so I'm not really all that upset about stuff. But it's nice to have a company that cares about the customers and what it is they're actually looking for.
Right. For sure. It's absolutely true. And I got to meet one of the developers for the framework developer, and like just the company culture is just really awesome. So for where I work, where I'm the IT manager for, well, we've replaced 2. I think they're both HPs on both sites, but the HR people now have frameworks, framework 13s because
Wow.
well, actually, it was a little bit cheaper than the Dell, HP, or Lenovo equivalent, and also, they're gonna potentially last pretty well. I did have kind of a funny. I went to check on the HR lady on Thursday. I said, "Hey, how's your new laptop treating you?" And she's like, "Oh, it's fine, but like everything is different now. Like Outlook doesn't do this. Like, oh, that's a Windows 11 thing. That's not the computer. That's Windows 11. So." Because it's all different and so she has had a little hard time with that. But yeah, anyway, I think that I really hope that they keep the same chassis, at least maybe not the exact same design, but the same interface points. So for a while, because I really like it. Like I've never loved a laptop before. I think I've said this like probably the last like 14 shows. But I've never loved a laptop before, but I really love this laptop. It's great. So
Happy to hear that.
yeah.
So
Nice.
again, on that note of the framework, I really liked the review they did of the laptop episode 359 of the Ask Noah show.
Mhm.
Actually, Noah Shalai, his son, apparently, he saved up money to get this laptop and
Yep.
was just so enthusiastic about the machine and spoke of it. Hey, this is something I'll be able to use years to come because I can take this motherboard out, put the new one in, boom, ready to keep on moving and just keep going instead of it becoming just another piece of e-waste. So
Right.
it's nice to have that kind of option out there on the market.
Yep. I don't think it's the best laptop you can buy, because I mean, obviously it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have as much power as an M1 or M2, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I think it's a few points off,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't have the battery life, but it's repairable. It's not held together
Mm-hmm.
with glue. It's not all the parts aren't soldered in place. Um, I think when you factor all that in, I will take a slower machine if it means I don't have to, cry when something happens to my laptop.
Did
Mm-hmm.
did you get the Intel or the AMD version?
I got the Intel because I wanted Thunderbolt 4 and I didn't want to have to think about the whole Thunderbolt situation. So I think the AMD one does a little bit
Okay,
better on power than the Intel, but I don't,
that's my impression too.
yeah. But
I mean, I have a Slimbook,
uh-huh.
which is like a Spanish made. I don't think they actually make the laptops themselves. It's probably some Chinese thing, but it also has the AMD Ryzen 4800, and it has like amazing battery life. So I'm really satisfied with it. So
So
much better than my old Intel laptop, which was much slower than that one.
yeah, yeah, I'd be interested in seeing like some specs, like how long the battery lasts and so forth, because that'd be interesting to know. But I'm not. I get like 7.5 hours on my framework, and I run a lot of garbage on it. So like I probably I'm excessive on my tabs on Firefox. I'm running multiple mail clients, and I got Teams running in the background, and I'm still getting 7 hours. So um,
That's pretty good.
yes, I think
What would you say is the most intensive program that you use that you do on there?
probably it's gonna be either doing the CAD stuff or Caden Live rendering. Probably when I render videos, that's probably the most intensive. And actually on battery, I rendered 2 short little video segments today for we're getting ready for a Christmas program at my church, and so I made like a Caden Live's got a lot of really neat things, but basically kind of the logo with a Santa hat on it, and then like snow coming in the background. So I put something together for that, but that's so and I didn't have to worry about the battery life. But I did want to. We did get a really nice chat in the YouTube. I don't know if you saw it from Ron. It says, "Hello, Nathan, panel and chat. Glad to be here for a sec to say hello and wish everyone a lovely holiday. Alas, can't hang as I am in the throes of a fat Zoom thing with extended family members at the moment. So, yeah, I think family is probably more important than a bunch of weirdos on the internet. So, anyway, um, not saying that we're weirdos, just me.
No,
Anyway,
no.
um, so we should probably actually get to the actual conversation that Eris put together a straw poll. And so Eris, do you want to take it away and lead us on to the actual intended discussion for today?
So the poll question was, besides the rise of AI, what in your opinion was the biggest news story of the year? And refresh. Number one answer chosen was Red Hat drops the public Red Hat Enterprise Linux repo with 23%, followed by Red Hat drops Xorg server and Red Hat Enterprise Linux 10 with 18%. And then after that is Linux gains a blue screen of death, 9%. Solus restructures itself, charts new path, 9%. Slackware and Debian turn 30, 9%. Tux Penguin, 9%. Raspberry Pi 5, 5%. Epic wins antitrust lawsuit against Google and slash Play Store, 5%. Linux Mint announces Wayland plan, 5%. And here I made a typo. It shouldn't be $1 million. It should be one million euros given to GNOME from the sovereign tech fund. So it's actually more money, 5%. And Linux surpasses Mac OS in the Steam survey for the first time, 5%. And nobody chose SUSE becomes private. Nobody chose Pipewire 1.0 is released. Steam Deck OLED is released. The rise of enterprise Linux by the alliance of CIQ, SUSE, and Oracle. Nobody chose GNU celebrates 40 years, and nobody chose Linux kernel drops 6-year LTS versions. I did not get any replies for this poll.
Yeah, so even though I'm obsessed with the Open SUSE project, I didn't think that the SUSE thing was all that big of a deal. Like nobody really cares about like,
No,
what SUSE is
no,
doing.
that's yeah. There's
But
nothing wrong with that.
the I think the Red Hat drops the public rel repo. That I think that's what I voted for. I voted for one of the Red Hat ones because anytime Red Hat does something, that's always the biggest news because whatever Red Hat does, they
That's a big impact.
everybody makes a big deal out of it. I think that was probably the biggest news story of the year for sure was when that happened because like everyone just got their got all upset over it, and I think I understand why Red Hat's doing that. I mean it's the work that they do, I guess. I don't. I guess I just don't care. But I think it's big news. But like the fact that they did that because I don't know.
I think a lot of people using Red Hat, Nate, were subscribed anyway. And if you're subscribed, I believe you still continue to get repo anyway, right? Because my workplace owns only a small business. They've been using Red Hat for a long time with their server.
Mm-hmm.
So I was telling him about it, and then he was looking into it, and he said he's subscribed, so shouldn't be an issue for him anyway. So yeah, that was an interesting one. Yeah.
I only think it's sad because Red Hat used to be like a really good case for open source, like a company that had their business based on open source, and that you could make money on open source software. And this is a little bit in the antithesis of that, I think.
Well, I mean,
I just think that
everything they're still doing is still in the public. The difference is the actual final snapshot is not totally defined.
And all the updates and all the patches and all that stuff too, right?
The way I've heard people from Red Hat say is that it's all in the CentOS stream repo, but it's not labeled easily. So you would have to do your own study of the repo and find out what patches what. So it's all in there supposedly, but it's not like it was before where everything was clearly laid out.
But what's really expensive for them is maintaining all the patches and updating and making sure that it's safe and secure. That's the reason for running, a distro like Red Hat. It's because you have that kind of service, right?
Yeah. I'm also going to post this link. This is from the Software Conservancy, and they gave this post once the Red Hat change happened, and they were saying that that there's been problems in the past with Red Hat, because according to the Software Conservancy, the Red Hat business model is always in contention with the GPL and has been for a long time. And there has been some instances of non-compliance that have been corrected, but they have happened. So I think the summary of this is that they say that they come as close as possible to still being compliant, but always in that little gray area.
Yeah. The thing is, I guess my attitude is, there are other options out there. I realize a lot of people actually focus on Red Hat, so I get the pain, but I think that's why, you have like a combination of SUSE, CIQ, and Oracle can work together on an enterprise Linux standard, I guess. So maybe actually that's the better answer anyway for the industry.
Am I wrong in saying that there was some certain companies or people out there that were actually making money from the their offshoots that they were doing? I can't remember who it was, to be honest.
This is what CIQ does. They're a for-profit company, I think, and
Right.
they make Rocky Linux and they sell
Yeah, okay.
support. I think Alma does it more like a nonprofit, and that's the big difference
Right.
between them, I think.
I worked
Okay.
in a company, engineering company, some time ago where we would buy the Red Hat licenses and have Red Hat be to run like databases, Oracle databases, and like really stable stuff that just needed to be always there. And then on the clusters for the HPC stuff, they would run CentOS or something like that. And so I think the businesses will still continue to buy Red Hat and continue because they know it works and all that stuff. I don't think they'll lose any business really. That would actually be interesting to see if Rocky and Alma Linux and all that stuff, if they will have an impact on the bottom line due to this. If it was actually a healthy choice for them to make.
So I guess the other thing that I understand too, and I'm not really 100% sure on this, like it just between things I read and listening to people talk, those that know, as it were. Apparently, I think the rub for Red Hat was Rocky Linux, and basically what Alma is doing is kind of an unfortunate side effect. The effect to them, because I think Alma were actually really good stewards and would do a lot for like helping with bugs and upstream, fixing of things. And my understanding is Rocky not so much. That's my understanding. I don't know that to be true necessarily, so don't take that as gospel. But I think that I believe, at least my understanding is that it was that was an irritation that Rocky essentially could take all the work that Red Hat does and then build Linux off of that, not really contribute back. Kind of basically the same kind of irritation that open source projects have with Amazon. They take, they don't give back, and then profit off of it. I think that's the issue. I don't know 100%, but that's kind of what I understand anyway.
That's something that's where I was leading to. I think that's what I heard too. Something similar to that.
I
So
could
just-
understand
Sorry.
that, and the idea that there could be some erosion of their profit margin because of something like Rocky, but I would be very curious to know what those numbers are, because I can't imagine that Rocky was making anything close to, what Red Hat was doing. I think this was probably more of a philosophical thing than it was an actual like harm, reducing harm or financial impact. I think it was much more of a, battle of will kind of thing where Rocky's like, well, we're exercising our right under the GPL and, under the licensing agreement that you were supposed to release it and we're allowed to do what we want with it. And this is what we want to do. And Red Hat's like, well, we don't agree. So I think it is unfortunate. And I don't know that it'll necessarily change. I mean, I agree with Magnus. I don't know that it's going to have any impact on their bottom line. I think they are the standard. And there is no one else even close to them in terms of being able to provide that same level of comfort to a C-suite, that kind of thing. So, maybe this does open the door. Maybe it softens their position. Maybe someone else like SUSE can come in and say, look, we offer a compelling. I don't agree with how the way SUSE is handling this. I think they're a little out of line with that, backing the bit for bit clone, initiative. I think that's a little shady personally. But if we want to start playing these games of like, just, I guess, these little battles, whatever they might be, I think it's bad overall for the industry. It's a bad look, but I'm not the one signing checks, so it really doesn't matter what I think.
So I posted this link, and it was the announcement where NASA announced that they had secured a contract with Rocky for support. So this is one of the examples that they point to that maybe led Red Hat to change their policy.
Even still, I'd say that's a drop in the bucket.
Is there a
Definitely.
chance that SUSE did that because they were also relying on patches from the Red Hat repos, and they were porting those patches into their own distro? Nate, do you know that, or?
I don't know. I know that SUSE has had for a long time basically a Red Hat clone like Rocky, and so, but that was largely because some SUSE project, and I cannot recall what it is offhand, but basically it's used to manage lots of different systems to include Red Hat, and so they want to make sure they had a Red Hat equivalent or something like that. So whether it's the but I know, because I mean SUSE really does more like with SAP. That's more their thing. So I'm not really sure what their ultimately what their beef is. You know what I mean? Like what's
I could just imagine that was the case because all those managing all those patches and keeping the kernel up to date and all that stuff. That is a lot of work, and maybe I suppose SUSE might think that other Red Hat clones might be also interested in having like one central place to maintain all the security stuff and updating all the these things together. I don't know if that's. I'm just kind of speculating because I have no idea.
I think part of the announcement when SUSE did this, they said that they wanted to give customers like a path forward in case they wanted to convert to SUSE instead, so that they would help you maintain your Red Hat instance and eventually transition over to SUSE. And also, if you wanted to run Red Hat and SUSE, they would also help you work with that. So it's all about giving themselves another entry for them to expand themselves in the market.
Yeah, I think like SUSE, they'll support Red Hat as well. I think that's part of it. Like they'll actually support Red Hat installations or something like that. But yeah, I don't.
I'm going to change subject here, Nate. I'd like to bring up the fact that the one that I voted for was Solus restructures itself and charts a new path. I thought that was a big story during the year, and I thought it was really good to see Solus come back on board and update everything. And haven't really they did a Hacktoberfest, I think, or something like that.
Okay.
But besides that announcement, they haven't really had much announcements after that. So haven't really heard much more except the fact that it's working. I've tried it a bit with my YAD stuff and all that and run it a little bit. Seems to be working fine. So it's all up and running. But
do we know if there's been any if they made the changes? Like I know like they're going to merge Serpent OS into
no, there's nothing being mentioned. No, not that I know of, because I quite often go to certain websites. Solus is one of them, and also Ferran OS is another one because he's a little bit behind on his new store, which is holding him up for his new release. But those two sites I normally go and visit to see where they are and what they're up to. And quite often there's just no announcements for anything. So, and then you go, oh, I might not just check for a while, and then you get caught out. And then someone's talking about an announcement for Solus. And you're going, oh, haven't been there for a while.
Well, now there has been discussion about that on their Matrix in their Matrix service.
Oh, okay.
That would be a better resource, for more
right.
Because Ike's on there, Joshua's on there, like folks are on there. They talk a lot, so
right.
Whatever they'll take care of it.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I just look at their blog on their website. That's pretty much what I do. So, and to be honest, you can look at Matrix and all that, but until something comes up on the blog, then you know something's really happening. But they may discuss things, but I don't even know what Matrix is. I think it's a messenger app, is it? But I don't get into all those things. But I tend to wait till things come up on their website, then you know things are really happening.
Well, yeah.
Otherwise,
I mean, it's organic conversations that they're having.
Yeah.
And you're in a position where you can ask a question in real life and they'll respond.
Okay.
They're very quick on that.
I used to talk to Ike a little bit and ask questions quite a long time ago on, if you remember, Google Plus. Was it Google?
Okay.
Was it Google Plus? The
Google
chat
Plus.
thing for, yeah, Google Plus, yeah. And he was very active on that. And I was right into, I was a Solus fanboy back then. I just really loved what they were doing with it, and from the ground up and everything. And and the biggest gripe obviously was lack of applications and all that sort of thing. But yeah, it's an interesting project.
He was on Telegram years ago and was very active there. I got to talk to him there. In fact, I told him about a program I wanted, and while I'm talking to him, he packaged it up and it was available. So I was like, whoa.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's pretty good that way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my 2 cents worth anyway.
Yeah, there came a point. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm fully in harmony with the Solus project. It's running on several of my machines, and when I do get my framework, I plan on having it on there as well.
Yeah, there came a point when everything wasn't working and everybody thought that the project was dead.
Mm-hmm.
It had been like, I don't know how many weeks or months without an update. But then
I was
thankfully
9-10 months more.
Yeah.
That many months?
And the website was down for a while too, which that didn't help people's confidence either.
I think there was. Okay, so I think it might have been down for like a month or 2 or 3,
Yeah,
maybe,
something
like
like
you
that.
said. But there was not a lot happening also over a
Yeah.
much longer period of time, I believe. Is that right, Swift? I don't know.
It was down for what I word it this way. It was down for enough time for it to kind of lose its momentum, and for people on Reddit are awful anyway, but they were just, people were just on and on. Oh, Solus is dead. Solus is dead. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Like, you don't
That's
even
right.
use Solus. You're complaining about the same things you were complaining in 2016. Like, stop it. Move on.
Mm-hmm.
And so my whole attitude, I was sitting there, I was using it still on my computers, just wasn't able to run any updates or anything. Waited around.
Right.
They got around to it. They got access to the server, whatever was going on with the other person that was working in Rochester, whatever. That was dumb. But they was able to rewrite the ship, and now they're sailing ahead and just being patient, waiting for them to get their chance to get together, and we're good to go.
Right. Yeah, I'm really glad that it didn't like fizzle out. I was worried that it was going to, and I'm really glad that I'm glad that it's going to keep going. It's not a distribution for me, but obviously people like it. I mean, Swift likes it, so
Oh, I love it.
And so if it makes,
well, it's a desktop focused distribution. That's what I like about it. It's mainly, it doesn't try to do everything. It's just a desktop focused distro.
Right.
And they don't try to be anything else, and that's what I like about it too. So
right, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
They release their updates every Thursday, I think. Is that how that works?
Thursday's a good day. I prefer to call it Friday.
I'm not sure, Aris.
I think there's somebody told me there was a day designated every week to updates.
Yeah.
I think
I
it was
normally
Thursday.
run mine every Sunday. Just to be sure. I forgot what it actually was.
Yeah, no, I think it's really great news. Has there been any updates, like any major updates in the blog since then? I know it was a big fanfare, I think, a few months ago, but I don't know. I've not checked. Have you?
Nah, none.
Okay.
Just the Hacktoberfest. They were doing a Hacktoberfest,
Okay.
so that was the last one. So besides the sailing again one, which was a little while ago, but obviously things are working, and they must be working on other stuff in the background, and like you said, they're going to be maybe moving over to Serpent OS.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of work being done in the underpinnings then.
So there are some exciting stuff happening in Linux, especially like Pop OS is another one that's changing the GNOME desktop to what they want it to be, which I'm really excited to see when that comes out based on Rust.
The Cosmic.
The Cosmic desktop, yeah. So I'm really excited to see what that comes out with, because some of the things I've seen just puts that extra bit of spin on the GNOME desktop, which would be very interesting to use. So I'm interested in that. So there's a few, Ferran OS as well. Ferran, he does a pretty good job, and he's a little bit behind. He must have other things he's been doing with his personal life as well. But I'm interested to see what his next distro looks like, or his major upgrade. He's working on a Ferran store, I believe. So we'll see what he comes up with there. But I believe most of the basis is done. It's just the store that's holding him up. So that must be a big job. I do a little scripting here and there. I just imagine what making a store would be like. Big task.
Think about the pain that the Gnome and Discover stores are, and how cumbersome and slow and everything else. I'm sure there's a lot. My guess, and I don't know for sure what he's doing, but probably a curated, almost like locked-in set of applications might be the easy way to go than something more dynamic like the Gnome and Discover stores.
Like the Monte boutique store,
right? Like that, because that one operates, slick, and it's it's fast. At least last time I used it, it was really nice. So
it's not overwhelming like the Gnome software store. You go in there and like there's so many things you don't know what's a good application in general, or they're all equally good.
True that.
Exactly. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what Ferran does. Be good when it's released. I'd like to, kick the tires on it. For sure.
Yeah, me too. Also, Populous is also interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I think those are two. Yeah, actually, the pop question wasn't on the survey, but that, I guess, that is kind of a big deal too. Because that was announced like early in the year, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's been going for a little while.
Yeah,
but that'd be a big job too. I'd have to think rewriting a whole. Is it the whole distro or whole desktop? Basically the desktop, is it? I don't know.
Yes,
I don't.
They're making their desktop with Rust, but I think they said they were going to use parts of GNOME, and then they were eventually they're going to cut those off and then become totally separate. But initially they were going to use some of it. I think once Josh Strobel separated what's the Budgie from Solus, that took a lot of Solus like wind out of its sales, you could say. And it's sort of like it lost a lot of its like allure, I guess. It sort of would be like if maybe cinnamon stopped being for mint. Like a lot of like what cinnamon is tied with mint, and I guess you could say that with Solus. At one point, it was the Budgie Premier desktop, like, and I think that was a big change for the distro.
Well, see, with Solus, what I wouldn't say disappointing, but what they brought out the Budgie desktop, and there was some great hopes for the Budgie desktop, and they were going to move to Budgie 3 and then Budgie 4, and then they had all these things they were going to do, and then they took on Mate and KDE, and then the focus sort of went off the Budgie desktop a little bit, and development on the Budgie desktop really slowed down, because I think it's not a bad desktop. It gets out of your way. It does simple things. It's quite simple, but it just lacks a few little things, I think. I don't know what, but I think it could be worked on a bit more, but I think development on that really come to a halt, and it was disappointing because there was things that they wanted to do, and I can't remember what they were, because it was a long time ago, but it's really, really slow development, which is unfortunate. Maybe Joshua's working on a lot of that stuff in the background, and that's why he's on that. Buddies of Budgie, I think it's called. So I'm not quite sure how that works, but they're definitely doing some work on it anyway.
Yep, I think I've always liked Budgie. I think Budgie's been great. I think that's just a nice clean desktop. So there's a point in time for a while I was running Solus with Budgie on a netbook, and the thing ran great. It was just really, really snappy, really fast, and I think something happened where like some update broke it, and then I just did something else with it. But anyway, I had a really good experience with that, and I think if Budgie kind of maintains a similar low resource heaviness that it has, and that'll be good. That'll be good for Solus just overall. I know that performance was a big thing for Ike back in the day. He was very picky about that.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah.
No.
So
That's why he did. Sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
I was going to say that's why he wrote everything in C, and he didn't want anyone writing anything in Python.
Yep.
He wanted
I remember that
to be clean, right? Yeah,
Yep.
and that was that's why Solus runs really well for that reason, and it's quick and fast. Yeah,
And then and that's one of the differences between Ubuntu Budgie and Solus, because I think Ubuntu Budgie has like Python add-ons or something, and
Yes.
they wanted to upstream them to Solus, but I think Ike said no, he's not taking any of that.
Yeah, that's right.
See, in conversations. Oh, go ahead.
No. You go this time, Swift.
In
Sorry.
conversations I had with Ike, his concern was being able to use it on a regular laptop that anybody would have. He wasn't going for it, being on some supercomputer that people wouldn't have yet. But, relatively low. I mean, he told me the specs of the machine was relatively low specs even at the time. And I've always appreciated it because as a result, I found that it runs on what I have. And I have some pretty old stuff. So it's nice to have that attention to detail in that respect versus just going for what's new.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, I agree. It's nice. It's nice to have that a lean distribution for machines that don't have the extra horsepower or a little bit aged for sure. Yeah, I appreciate that.
It's probably my lack of knowledge, but I know a lot of it was based on the GNOME desktop, but didn't have all the GNOME stuff in it. And I was thinking, why can't they just hook up like an activities overview and things like that very simply? But it's got to be a lot more complicated than what I'm thinking about because I don't understand it all. But it'd be nice to have a little bit of activities overview. But the menu was a big thing. Everyone complained about the menu. And now they got the what's the menu they use now? What's the menu they use now, Swift? What's it called?
Are you talking about Raven?
No, just the normal menu. That they got it from the Mate desktop, didn't they? The one that they're using now.
Oh my goodness.
Can't remember the name of it.
I should know
that. Yeah, I can't remember the name of it now, but they
Brisk?
swapped out.
Is it the Brisk?
Brisk menu, yeah, that sounds right. Yeah. So that made it searching a little bit better, I think, than what the actual original menu did in Budgie. Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Well, it looks like our very own Steve has joined us, and also Eric, welcome. I haven't heard much from you yet. A little bit, but not much. You're kind of quiet. That's okay.
Had a little bit.
Yeah.
You guys were doing a good job. I was enjoying it.
Well,
I don't know. I know very little about Solus.
Yeah.
So
I got you. Understandable. I only know one, from way back when. So, and then Steve's probably picking himself up off the floor because I guess he poured one too many for himself. So that's what happens at the Linux Saloon, I suppose.
Oh, I'm getting there.
See, you probably can't see straight yet. So welcome.
There we go.
Oh, there we go. There's the least punch in the face on the internet.
What's up, people?
How you going, Steve?
Living the dream, Steve. Living the dream. So, well, very cool. So I think some other interesting news, and that to come back to Red Hat again. So Red Hat is dropping Xorg server in RHEL 10. How do you feel about this concerted push away from Xorg? Does that bother anybody? Does anybody care? Is it kind of like whatever?
I have to imagine.
Does that matter in a server?
Yeah.
Well, they have workstations.
But if you want to have like a GUI for administration every now and then, but usually servers don't have GUIs.
But RHEL isn't just server.
No, they have workstations.
Yeah, I mean they support a lot of workstations.
Yeah.
It's not. So I have to imagine that either their customer base doesn't rely a lot on X applications, or they've have plans to mitigate that. I have seen more and more stories of developers claiming that X Wayland is going to be a bridge for them, at least soften the blow. So maybe that is something that they've considered. I don't know. I don't think they would do it half-hearted or half-cocked. You know, I have a feeling that they would have thought through these things. But it's a good question.
The things that concern me is, I have some, so there's some pieces of equipment that I have that rely on specific X tools, and making sure that I can convert those over to using Wayland tools essentially. And I don't really know fully how that's all going to be done yet. So it's not really a problem. I mean, because the way I'm using them, not an issue, doesn't matter. But at some point in time, I'm gonna have to address that. And it's not. And these are like appliance-based machines that are doing a specific task. So like XDo tool is one of the things that I'm using. I think there's a Wayland equivalent for that, but I don't know. And then when I'm forced to move those over, is it going to be how painful is it going to be? I don't actually know, but I guess I'm just not going to worry too much about it at this point. And from a desktop experience, Wayland seems to do everything I need it to do. I think with the Wayland plus Pipewire, I think has made all these things actually work quite well. But I think Wayland absent of Pipewire, it's kind of hamstrung, I think. So, yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens.
But that's gonna be a while, right? I mean, the next Red Hat version this would concern is many years in the future, right? So,
I think what they're saying, what I was saying is that whenever Red Hat 9 goes away in support, that's when it ends. Because obviously 10 it's not gonna have it. So I think 9
So-
goes on until the 26th, I think.
Yeah,
Let me yeah.
Rel 10 is planned to be out in the first half of 2025, and I'm not sure how much longer 9 will be. I'm not exactly sure what the full life cycle is. I'm not.
it's gonna be a few years. So
Yeah.
hopefully, most of the remaining issues with X-Wayland can be mitigated.
So
full support ends in 3 years, 5 months, 31st of May, 2027 for Red Hat 9. And then maintenance support ends in 8 years, 2032. But I think full support is when they would be more willing to do any bug fixes. And I think maintenance support, they would only like patch the most severe problems. I think that's how that works.
So that's time for the last remaining issues with X-Wayland to be solved.
I think that's plenty of time. I really do.
Yeah.
I think it's a non-issue.
I mean, considering how bad it was some years ago with Wayland, it's a lot better now. So, it's basically mostly apps that still use X11 with some edge use cases that have issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Barrier and Synergy, that kind of stuff.
Right. The thing too is like drag and drop onto Chromium. Like if I drag a file onto a Chromium, like for let's say I'm going to upload a thumbnail, that doesn't work in Chromium. It works fine in Firefox, but doesn't work well in Chromium. So
right, yeah, that's good. Yeah, I've had that too.
But that's to me. It's just an annoyance. It's not like it doesn't make me cry too much.
No, it's not good. But
yeah, it's not good.
The workarounds, but
yeah. So I use Firefox. That's the workaround.
Well, if you use the Firefox stamp, that's Wayland by default.
Oh, really? Well, there we go. Nice callback to last week. So that's good to know. yeah. Anyway, I think it'll be interesting. I think 2024 will be interesting to see with the desktop and with desktop environments and the display server, how that's all going to shake out. So hopefully nobody will be shouting some nonsense like Wayland is a failed experiment or some crap like that. But anyway, also Pipewire. Is anybody here still using Pulse? Or
Yeah, but
okay.
through Pipewire.
Yeah, because I've been using same.
I mean, Pipewire is an amazing project. I mean, it solved so many issues, and it just did it so seamlessly. I think it's fantastic what they did with that.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just
the fact that
amazing.
The fact that it dropped in and most people didn't even notice it. That's a huge win right there.
Yeah, and you can use Jack and Alsa and Pulse together without any problems, and it's just no latency issue. Well, there was some, but I think they solved the remaining little latency issues with Jack. I just think it's amazing. Cool project.
Yeah, for sure. So that's anyway, yeah, I think that's pretty great. I don't really care that version 1 is released. I don't even know what that means. It's just a number to me. I don't know if there's anything.
I think it means that they've done everything. It's like all the goals, all the bullet points are fixed now for the first stable release.
Okay.
Because they had something with some edge cases with real-time support. I can't remember what it was. It was some Jack related issue with I can't remember it right now, sorry, but and they fixed that. So
I guess I was reading some like jitter that it had.
Yes.
Less jitter in ALSA when using IRQ mode. I don't know what that means. Internet request mode, but I haven't noticed that.
I think 1.0 should mean like that you're safe to build on it, because prior to 1.0 there could be a major change, and now I think they, in an interview that they had with Fedora magazine, they said that they tell people just to build on Pulse Audio APIs, and that they will keep those forward. That because there people were talking about different APIs using different APIs, but they said it says those are so old and used that they'll just maintain those, and those are where it really work. So there's a framework now for people to build upon it, and before, I guess, it was kind of like, where is this headed? How are things going to be? So it should be more stable from that sense.
Gotcha. Well, regardless, I've been happy with Pipewire for a while now. I think maybe a couple months ago or a month ago or so, I had some issues with it. I had to like restart Pipewire on here in the middle of a stream because it like flaked out on me, and then, but that was whatever. We got through that stream. Most of them are kind of rough, I think. But I know that Steve, all his streams are rough and he gets through it. So anyway.
Oh yeah, I learned from the best.
Who's that?
You.
Oh, I'm not the best. I learned from Eric how to roll with the punches. He can take some punches too. He's good at it.
Oh yeah. Well, I expect the worst, and when it happens, then I'm vindicated.
Right. So another really fun story, I think, is the blue screen of death for Linux. Have you seen this one?
I cannot. When I saw it, I was like, "It's April, right? We're back in April. Like, this can't be a real thing." And
well, it's an informational screen.
Pick any other color. Why blue?
Okay. So I like blue, and let me tell you why. When you start up a Commodore 64 and you get that ready prompt, there's nothing happier and warmer than that screen with like that hum of a CRT. To me, that is the the pinnacle, the zenith of computer experience right there. So I think they should play off of that.
So this is my theory of why it's blue. So people use Linux because they say it's more stable than Windows.
Hmm.
Well, people always like taking photos of those blue screens of death that they see out in the wild. So now people will still think that's a Windows system that's down, even though it's Linux underneath.
I think if it's able to um, be useful in some manner, like actually be useful, like the Windows blue screen of death basically says, okay, time to reboot. Not much you can do there. Um, if it can actually be useful, yeah, that's fine.
Well,
And
so we've all been conditioned that a blue screen is useless. There's no valuable information there. There's nothing we can do except shut off the computer. If they implement this in a way where we're supposed to now pay attention to them, we have to undo that sort of training. So I think that it is just a bad decision,
I
personally.
I think it's still better than you do an update, something goes awry with your NVIDIA drivers, and you just have one like blinking cursor. I think it's better than that.
Oh, no, the idea of an error screen or a fault screen is fine. Making it blue is dumb.
Okay, but I like
Yeah,
It just is. I
it
don't know
is.
what else to say it.
maybe
No, there is no other way.
When I heard it, I thought it was a bad joke.
maybe they should go with green. So your computer's sick.
So anyway,
So anyway, I thought it was. I mean, it's not actually released, so whatever. I hope I see one just so I can like take a picture and like Twitter about it or something like that, or X about it and complain. I just I want it to happen just so I can complain about it. Gives you something else to complain about. So, but if you're not running System D, then you won't see it. So, there you go. Blue screen of death comes to Linux. Thanks.
I mean,
to
I
System
can't
D.
remember when I had a crash last time. I
I
think
think
it was
this
an
is
out of memory thing for me, and where my computer basically just stalled, and I had to reboot it. It's long, long, long time ago. So
Yeah.
I suspect we won't see it that often.
No, I think it'll be pretty rare.
I see them pretty often on Windows.
I haven't had one on Windows in a while. It's been some years.
I have.
I have other issues on Windows where just golly Outlook, why are you frozen? Stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Why are you using like 100% disk? And you're not doing anything. So
Right.
what's going on? As and CPU power. I've had the like virtual machines with Windows on them. If you log out and just let it run, suddenly it's using a lot of CPU power. When you log in, and then the CPU power falls. What? What
Yeah.
the fuck is?
Yeah.
And that happens like all the time. Weird.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I don't know why it does these things, but yet it does.
Maybe it's scanning the hard drive or something with the antivirus.
Who knows?
Yeah.
So I guess some other exciting news that happened. The Raspberry Pi 5 has been released. So is anybody planning on getting one?
If there's any.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
eventually.
get one. Definitely.
Now,
Like I said last time I was on, I got an Orange Pi 5, which is very nice. They're basically almost the same speed and capabilities,
Uh-huh.
but the RPi just have so much more support, and so I think I'm definitely gonna get that one too.
I wonder if how different the image is for the 5 from the 4. That's what I wonder about. Like if it's a lot different, because every ARM CPU's got to have its own little tailored image, which is the annoying thing about ARM. But I guess whatever.
So the reviews were saying this is like the first Pi that you could like seriously consider using it as your main PC.
Really?
Like just for like watching the YouTube videos, browsing the web, because the other ones will take a while for them to load web pages and stuff like that. But this one actually does it in a decent amount of time, especially if you were to use like a SSD instead of the SD card.
Yeah, I did that with my Orange Pi. I just wanted to try it out, so I installed the OS. They have the default one from the Orange Pi website, and it was like using a normal desktop. It may have been a little slower, but it was almost like using a normal desktop. So it's really cool.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. It's another fun thing to work on. I guess is there some sort of power management now or something like that? I don't know. There's something I was reading about, and I don't even know now. But
they made their own on the RPi 5. They made their own kind of bus chip that takes care of routing some of the signals, some of the PCI stuff, and some of the so they custom made their own chip for this on the Raspberry Pi 5 to improve the I/O.
Gotcha.
And so that's really cool. And hopefully, the RPi 6 will be even better. So yeah, it looks really exciting.
Yeah, I think so too. The I like that they have a hat where you can put on the M.2 for sure. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, you have to actually add a hat to get the M.2. On the Orange Pi, they have the M.2.
Oh yeah.
On the board. So I'm not sure. I like
How much is the orange one
on that.
How much is the orange one?
Ooh, I can look it up, but I paid for it. Just a moment.
Yeah, so the 4 gigabyte variant is $60, and the 8 gigabyte for the Pi 5 is $80, which that's still very reasonable, for sure. I wonder if there'll be like a Pi 500 to go along with that. A keyboard.
Yeah, people were talking that they wanted something like that because the 400 was like the fastest Pi. It was faster than the 4 because they put this giant heatsink in it.
Right.
And it was overclocked even higher than the Pi 4 by default. Even so. So maybe they could do that with the Pi 5, but I don't think they've announced anything like that yet.
I think like the 2 video outputs, I kind of don't get that. I think one full-size HDMI plug would be preferred, at least from my perspective, but that's my perspective though. Maybe 2 is good. Maybe
yeah,
2's better.
I don't understand the dual one. Yeah, I would rather have a full-size one, but I don't know. Like I guess they're trying to do dual screens for kids in programming or something. I don't know. I don't know what the idea of the 2 is.
Yeah, I can barely drive one. I don't know why you'd want to drive 2. I mean, I can understand like a dual on the Pi 400 or something like that. Well, whatever. Leave it 2. That's probably best. What do I know? It's good to have extra options as opposed to fewer. Most of the time I run them headless.
I can't find the receipt.
So, it's all good. Well, if you find it, cool. So yeah, so it's fun. I think the single board computers, I think that's always fun, for sure.
I think it was a little surprising, right, for the 5 to come out, since the 4 was so lacking in like supply for a long time.
Right.
And they announced the 5, and I guess the 5 is also lacking in supply, but I don't think anybody expected it. At least this year, maybe next year, I'm guessing. Right.
Yeah, what's supposed to the 5? It's supposed to be released. It's supposed to be available now, I think.
No, I'm saying nobody expected it to come out this year.
Yeah. That was a surprise. I wasn't expecting it. Anyway. Well, cool. So I wasn't as excited about this one as maybe some others, but the OLED screen Steam Deck. A lot of people are excited because they want the OLED, I guess. I think OLED is garbage, personally. but I like the fact this has a better battery life and so forth. So I think that's cool. I mean, I like my Steam Deck, and I like the fact that it's not an OLED. Like I prefer that.
Okay, I bought it on Amazon back in March, and it was $100.
Oh.
So it's a little bit more expensive than the RPi or the Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
So the new Steam Deck has a newer APU,
Yes.
and it has Wi-Fi 6E.
Yep.
Compared to just Wi-Fi 5. And I guess the OLED and like you said, the better
battery
promised
life.
battery with the with the OLED.
Like 50% more battery life or something like that. And so slightly bigger 7.4-inch display as opposed to the 7-inch. And then it uses the 6 nanometer APU compared to the 7 on the original. And but it's still Zen 2 based with 4 cores, 8 threads, using the RDNA2 graphics. So
with all games that have all these HUDs, I do wonder if that's going to be an issue. Maybe not. Maybe there won't be burn-in, but like a lot of games have like a little section for lives or something like that. It never changes, static. Maybe they have fixed all the OLED problems. I don't know.
Yeah, Adam is arguing with me. He says, I think OLED is garbage. Saying Cubicle 8, I think OLED is garbage in quotes. Saying we just witnessed a man telling a lie. Nope. I think OLED is garbage because it burns in. It's basically a disposable screen, and I don't like that. So I've seen just too many OLED screens with burn in. And sure, it's been a few years, and I guess like newer OLED's a little bit better, but it's basically like plasma screens. Sure, it's fine when it's new, but just it degrades so much more rapidly than LCD. So, but if you want to have that screen that wears out in a few short years, I guess go for it. Whatever. But it is a Steam Deck, so you can repair it. You can pop in another OLED screen if you really feel like it, I suppose.
Could you go back to LED?
It's true. You could do that too. You could fix it and put an LED screen and get rid of that OLED once it burns out.
I guess they're focusing on the battery life, maybe.
I don't think OLED is.
I just heard. I'm not sure.
I don't think OLED is more efficient with power unless you're running it like with a
black screen.
Black screen, yeah.
I think. Yeah, you need not a lot of white. Otherwise, you're gonna waste a lot of energy. I don't know. They're supposed to be more efficient, but are they all scenarios? I do not know that part.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, right. Like a LED screen uses like full opacity all the time, and the OLED is only averaging out what you actually show.
Right.
If you remember, at one point they were trying to convince everybody to change their Google homepage or search engine to a black screen to save energy, but that of course didn't work because most people had LED screens, not OLEDs. Yeah, there was like I don't know, like maybe 6 years ago, maybe more than that, maybe like 8-10 years ago, and a lot of people were switching over to a dark Google webpage because it was all black. But then people didn't know, of course, that didn't help at all because, like we said, like the LEDs will use the same amount of energy between the black screen and the white screen. Only with OLEDs does it make a difference.
So Adam's arguing with me in the chat here. It says take a look at the video by Wolfden. I don't know. Regarding the burn-in on the Switch OLED, he left it on a static screen for a long time, and it was very resilient. That was a worst-case scenario. Sure. It's still going to burn in, though. I mean, you can leave a CRT, and the later CRTs you could leave on the same image for quite a while, but you're still going to get burned in. You're still going to have that wear factor. But no, it's fine. I mean, again, if you want to have that wear out screen business, that's you. That's
yeah,
cool.
if you Google for pictures for OLED burn-in, there are a lot of those with a lot of burn-in actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. And here's a OLED TV burn-in. Why you no longer need to worry. That was released this month. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm not convinced. Maybe someday, but I'm not. I'm not going to. I'm not going to spend any money on an OLED.
Would you get a monitor OLED?
What's that?
Would you get a monitor OLED?
No.
What about a TV?
Nope.
None of it?
Mm-mm. Nope. I will not. I will stay clear of OLED for the time being. So, maybe someday, but that day is not today. So I understand. I appreciate the idea of having, where each pixel essentially is its own light source. I appreciate that. I think that's a great idea. I just don't think that the technology is there yet. It will be someday, but I just don't think it's there yet. So, and then, yeah, by the time they perfect that, we'll probably have holograms a la Star Wars. That'll be, we can use that instead. So, and then I'll be complaining that that's gonna do something,
Radiation.
I mean, Star Trek, don't you?
Yeah, we're Star Trek, yeah. But, yep. So, yeah, Adam, if you wanna join in and tell me how wrong I am, that's cool too. I don't mind. I don't mind you arguing with me. So yeah. Anyway, but I think the Steam Deck, the fact that it's the same form factor, the same case, and everything else. So if you have all the stuff that people are building for the Steam Deck, cases and skins and whatever else, that all will transfer to the Steam Deck OLED. I think that's great. And better battery life, that's great. Everything's great except for that OLED screen. So
going along with that story, in the Steam survey in July, it was announced that Linux finally surpassed Mac OS as in the game survey. The market share is bigger than Mac now for games in the Steam survey.
Well, nice. So yeah, so what would the I didn't actually check that out. I kind of didn't key in on that. So is it just barely, or is it significant?
Barely, right?
It's barely, but they have maintained it. It's still the latest one that came out was still Linux leading Mac OS.
Oh, it looks like it's
good news.
increasing quite a bit too. So I just think the title to this is just, to me, hilarious. Steam on Linux usage spikes to nearly 2%.
But that's how low it was. It was below 2%. I mean, if you were to say the Linux market share for the desktop spikes to 3%, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have that as a question on my 2024 survey. Will it go beyond 4%?
Yeah. So Daniel in the chat says, I think that was part in that. I think this for the concerning the survey. I think that was in part by Steam Deck reaching above Mac OS. It's a better story for Steam and Linux. So, yeah, probably. I guarantee it has to do with the Steam Deck, because the experience is good enough on the Steam Deck that people aren't putting Windows on it. So
it could also mean that more people just use the App Store on Mac to buy games. So it could also just be bad news for Steam, actually. Considering that I think the Mac Steam survey was a bit higher on Mac percentage-wise back in the day. Like a few years ago, it was a few more percent. Is that something we can look at?
yeah, so I guess we'll see what I guess the next time they release another survey, Let's see how those numbers go. I don't have a whole lot of confidence. Well, I should be more optimistic. Maybe Linux will keep growing. Hello, Vince. Welcome to Linux Saloon.
My Nixes.
I'm sorry, you're what?
My Nixes. Like Unixes.
Oh, I see. Yeah. I got it.
You like what I did there?
I did. Yeah, that was clever. So, do you think I'm wrong about the OLED screens?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay. So I think there are some genuine quality improvements with OLED. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And there are a lot of most manufacturers are aware of the burn-in issue, and they go to great pains to actually prevent it. And I think if you're buying a screen now, like that's just been released now, I don't think you'd have issues with burn-in because they go to such great pains to avoid it.
Yeah, you're probably right. I'm still one of those curmudgeons that's gonna sit on the sidewalk and cross my arms and pout and say, "Nope, I don't want it." So that's more or less where I sit. And I could be wrong.
You waving your fist and shouting at the clouds? Is that what's going on?
That's exactly what's happening. I'm barking at the wind.
I just want to hear from Steve.
What do you want to hear?
I don't know. I was like listening in for like the last 10 minutes and you were very quiet. You know how I love it when you just won't shut up.
It happens a lot.
He got nothing. He got nothing.
I never have anything except a good beer. I got better things to do than argue about an OLED screen.
There's nothing
Oh,
better.
look how chill he is. Look how chill he is now. He's retired.
He is pretty chill now. I bet his back feels better too now that he's retired.
Actually, not. No, it's been pretty rough.
I'm gonna imagine your back feels better. So another
Probably not be.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, not being as active probably hurts, but
you should do yoga. I have goats. If you do yoga with the goats here,
that sounds so bad.
they'll probably just step on you though. They're not yoga trained.
It's shit all over me. I mean, excuse me, poop all over me.
Yes, they probably would, and they'd probably eat your shoelaces because they do that. So, are we excited that the GNU celebrates 40 years this year? Was that anything that was like we made a cake for and so forth?
GNU.
It's good news.
GNU.
But I didn't make a cake.
Didn't make a cake.
No.
It was a little undercovered, this story. I don't even think Phoronix covered it. Or maybe they did. I don't know. But it wasn't very talked about very much.
Yeah, I wonder why that is. It does seem a little odd.
Sometimes GNU is controversial in the FOSS ecosystem.
Yeah, that's true. It's not. Wait, Let's see. I thought it was just FSF. That's FSFE. What's E now? Oh, Europe.
It's Europe.
Oh, okay.
They're different from the FSF. They're a separate entity.
Okay. I got you. I mean, I think the FSF has been controversial. I think that you have to have those people though. They kind of keep the like the software Overton window, I guess you could say, from shifting too far to the proprietary. I think they're constantly pulling us back, you know? And so I think they're sometimes a little bit much, but I appreciate their contributions because I think it kind of helps us to constantly rethink about how we're using our computers and so forth. So I think, you know, I mean, They're not my favorite organization, but I think they're necessary.
Well, the FSF was very political, very philosophical,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what it separates it from the open source initiative, which is all about um, the benefits of the code being open, not so
Right.
much the philosophy of like freedom and all these things. It's just like it comes along with, but it's not like stress as much.
Right.
And so that's their big difference, I guess.
Right. Yeah, I think, and not to get into political because I won't, but I think the reality is open source has brushed a lot with government, a lot, in a variety of ways, and I think that it is something that does have to be protected from government. I think as much as possible, because I think that some governments would like to take away a lot of those freedoms. So that's one that concerns me. With encryption and everything else. So it's especially when governments start to go rogue. So I think there's an inevitability that it's going to probably become an issue now and again. So I think it's good to basically, again, to have these organizations that kind of do the dirty work. I guess maybe FSF does the dirty work, and we should appreciate them for not having to.
They push the envelope of
Right.
like that side.
Mm-hmm.
One thing to note about this, has been 40 years, and still GNU Herd is not a thing. Like it exists, but it's just like in limbo. It's like nobody uses it. It's not anywhere near a state to be actually used. So that's notable, I guess, because but if it wasn't for the Linux kernel, then there would be no GNU system, I guess.
Right.
Well, I mean, that's not really true. GNU was used on Unix before Linux even existed.
The Herd kernel?
No, the GNU system, like
Oh.
not the, but all the compiler stuff, all the system tools, all
But I'm talking about like the
and
operating system. It wouldn't like exist really.
it kind of does. I mean,
How would it exist without the Linux kernel?
I'm not saying that like an entire operating system with GNU would exist. I don't think it would without the Linux kernel, but all the OS tools that GNU made back in the early 80s and up through the 80s, they were embraced by the Unix ecosystem. And
very, very extensive, like all the tools, the little programs that are like the simple tools, and then you have like the compiler.
Yeah, the compiler is a big deal because
so
basically, if you didn't have the compiler, you'd also be. Yeah.
Daniel in chat says he used the GNU compiler on DOS, so there is that.
Yeah, even Microsoft did it. I think Microsoft were using the GNU compiler back in the 80s too.
But one thing to note is that they're rewriting the basic tools for GNU, and they're making them in Rust, and they're making them in a more permissive license.
Really?
They're no longer I forgot. I think they were LGPL or something, and now they're not gonna be that or something. Let me find out exactly what it is now.
Yeah, that is the big question. Does the GPL license really keep things open and free, or is it like we don't have another world to test on, so where the GPL license isn't there? But I mean, that's an open question.
I might have missed it earlier, but did you guys talk about the role changes when they closed their source code?
Yeah.
So I mean, that's GPL, right? But it seems like GPL is not enough for some. Like you want the code to be open, but the license also provides for charging people for code, right? It actually states that you can charge whatever you like for the code, and that it only needs to be required to be released to people who pay for it.
Yeah.
Right. So then that's not open enough for some people, which is why there are other licenses like BSD and MIT licenses.
I mean, that basically is the biggest difference between open source licenses and closed source, is that you pay up front, and then once it's published, it's free for everyone. Whereas with other software, you pay royalties, right? That is the.
I mean, because the FSF has gone to
concept
great
here.
pains. The FSF has gone to great pains to say free as in not as in free as being beer, right? Free as in freedom.
Yes.
Right.
So yeah, I mean that is one of the downsides that a lot of people will say about open source, that it needs to be even more open.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the free as in speech or free as in beer, those are two different concepts, I think, that is intertwined with the open source world. So.
Mm-hmm.
And
so the tools is the GNU core utils, and they're being rewritten into Rust, and they were GPL2, and then they were converted to GPL3, and the rewrites are being made into the MIT license, I think.
Yeah, that's very liberal license. Yeah.
Is that better, you think?
I think it depends what how you view it. On one side, that means that they can be used for anything, any purpose, of course. Like the MIT is very permissive.
The BSD people would say that it's good. They provided a lot of the source code for the Mac OS operating system, and they say that they get something back from it as well. But I'm not using BSD on any computers.
So, but then you say that, right? That they get back from Mac, but then the free BSD desktop doesn't really exist. I mean, it exists, but hardly anybody uses it. So are they really getting back? And
Right.
this goes back to the GPL. It's all about you get the code, but you give back, and
Right.
it forces you to.
Yes. Yeah, that is probably the biggest difference. But then a lot of BSD people, they use Mac because it works great. So.
I mean, the funny thing here is what we're saying is, where do you draw the line for freedom?
Yes.
It's free, but you have to draw a line still.
Sure.
As long as we get free beer.
Oh yeah.
Only at Steve's house, apparently.
Yeah. And coffee.
A lot of free coffee.
Well, good deal. Well, anyway, 40 years for the FSF and for GNU, I should say.
GNU.
FSF. GNU. For the GNU celebrates 40 years. So I think that's exciting, and I think it's good for everybody. So yeah. Oh, and then the other big news this year, remember, we talked about it, was the Linux kernel drops the 6-year LTS version. And how many, I guess some people were a little bit shafted by that a little bit, little kind of got, were bothered by it. I don't know, I use a rolling release, so it doesn't really matter to me as much. But I know that, I'm trying to remember who it was. That it was, it was an issue, I guess, with them. But like for the, for LTS releases of Linux distributions and so forth. But I guess apparently, the kernel developers were reaching burnout, and so that was part of the reason. So I don't know. Do you think it's that big of a deal?
I think it's a lot more work for the stable distros, like maybe Ubuntu. Ubuntu we're very happy that they were using the LTS kernel,
right?
Because that meant that for a long time they would have patches, they would just transfer over. But now, if I don't know what's going to happen with 2404, but potentially that will not be an LTS kernel, and they would have to pick up all that workload.
And also, it looks like the Android and the Internet of Things devices also will be negatively affected by that. So I'm not exactly sure what that's going to
and that's a big problem with the IoT because you'll get a lot of updates sometimes, and
Yeah.
this would just be something they would transfer over and just distribute. But are companies actually going to pick up the slack and actually provide updates for their hardware?
Maybe this could be the Linux Foundation's way to say, please contribute, guys. We don't want to carry the entire burden.
That could be. I mean, just because they made that decision doesn't mean they can't reverse that decision.
Right.
So I don't think that it's a. I definitely see it as a potential for problems, but I don't know. I'm not a big fan of IoT devices in general. So, I think you don't need a crock pot that's
me neither.
on the internet. And actually, I think that if as long as the devices aren't reaching out into the cloud, I think if they're local only, then it's not that big of a deal. So I think maybe hopefully this will be a push to maybe get away from cloud dependent devices. That'd be I think the great win, in my opinion, on that.
Yeah, it's like when you have a house or everything in your house is basically in the cloud, and how can you be? I mean, I don't like those Alexa things and that listen to what you're saying all the time.
Right.
Like if your fridge is listening to you and that kind of stuff. I don't know. I just think it's wrong in a way.
Yeah,
It would be so nice if these like IoT devices or like appliances would just have a mode where it says like local network only, like don't connect to anything else.
Yep.
But usually they promote the app that like, oh yeah, you can connect to your toaster or whatever, or to your refrigerator if you're out and about in your phone. And I'm like, why would I want to
Like
do that?
it would be super convenient if you could just tell the fridge to buy new milk and whatever's missing, and the fridge basically also keeps a track of everything you have there, and it automatically just asks you, should I order, these things? You're missing them.
It makes a record for you, and then it keeps one for its own purposes.
Yeah, maybe it could even like hold statistics on who's opening the door and taking the most cheese and count carbohydrates and that kind of stuff
right.
for the family.
You took too much eggnog this holiday season.
Yeah.
So a buddy of mine, he built a new house and he put all new appliances in there. He's got this Samsung refrigerator that does take pictures, and he can actually keep track of things. It's smart enough to be able to like, when the milk was put in and everything else and leftovers and so forth. And I think it's cool because it's a refrigerator. It's cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
There's a price to it, right?
Mm-hmm. But like, I don't really want to have that data being gathered and who else is using that data, and that's what concerns me about it. Because Samsung has one of the worst EULAs, I think, out there. And so I don't know. I have no warm and fuzzies about having such a thing. Now I think it looks cool. I think it's a neat idea, but I don't think I want the liability that comes along with it. I think that kind of bothers me a lot. So
in dystopian science fiction, they talk about that in the future, all toilets will be smart. And let's say you would go in there, and if it makes a report to appropriate people, like if you were to consume illicit substances, of course it would send to authorities. And then even if you think, well, it's only things that are illegal, okay, but let's say you were to consume alcohol, and this is like your second night this week. It would send a report to the insurance company and tell you, oh yeah, he's drinking more alcohol. Maybe you should increase his fare.
Yeah.
Yes,
but this was actually in the original RoboCop movie from was it the 80s or the 90s? It's like 30 years ago. And at some point they're in the toilet and then it says you have been so and so much in your and it was that movie was such a sarcastic comedy on society, and so much of that movie has come true in many ways. It's a little scary, actually.
Yeah, no,
so it's turning into a documentary.
Yes, yeah. My big brother, he said that there was this documentary from the 80s called not the Terminator, And I think those AI guys should look at that documentary because it didn't end well.
Nope, it surely did not. But this whole
Right.
this whole
Okay,
conver- Go ahead.
sorry. I'm going to be the contrarian here. Sorry, Nate. It's just it's the mood I'm in today.
Okay.
But if someone is a bigger risk to an insurance company, for example, and should they not actually pay more to contribute more to insurance?
Yeah.
If they, if they're a smoker and they're they might drink more alcohol, and if you are also going to be consuming substances but also not disclosing it to the insurance company, are you not then, fraudulently claiming insurance? Is that a thing?
Yeah, it's true.
I think those are some good points, but I think there's a how do I put this? So like, I think the problem is when we get into like this like zero defect society thing. So like if you are punished for every time you make a mistake, a misstep, I think that's the problem. But like, yeah, if you're chronically doing bad things,
Right.
that's something a little bit different. If your toilet's keeping track of all your poo, and like what's coming out of your, whatever happening, and I
What
I
if the
think
flip side to that? The flip side to that is it detects an early bowel cancer and it saves your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that is
It's the same thing with AI, right? The scary thing is actually if it's like super convenient and it can just replace everything we do more or less.
Yeah.
Because then we'll be completely dependent on it, and somebody's going to own that thing, right?
So
is it going to be Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or whoever?
So are you
They're
saying that we
basically
could
going
live
to
in
be able to,
I don't. I
So
think
are
manage
you
anything.
describing a world where we'd live in our toilets and just spend 24/7 on the toilets? Is that what you're saying?
get a lot of reading done.
Well,
The
yeah, who knows?
So before, let's say like 20 years ago, maybe more, people would say when robots started taking jobs, well, you should just get like a programming job and something like that, something with computers, and that way you can like get a better job or whatever. And now AI is being used to program, and people are thinking, Am I going to lose my job as a programmer? Am I going to be replaced by a machine or a program?" And now those same people are saying, "But now you're telling me that I can't be a programmer." So some people think, I don't know if this is true, but some people think that the best long-term fields are the things that AI cannot replace, like plumbers and
electricians.
like architects, bricklayers, things that before people would say, "Oh, those jobs are going to be extinct in the future," but maybe not.
So I think there's definitely a concern, but I'm not really that concerned. I think it'll, we factory jobs still exist even though there are robots. I think if the problem. So if you're going to write code using AI, it can make mistakes too. You're still gonna have to have a human there to correct or to toll gate those mistakes and verify, or should say verify the code, because it can still make mistakes or misunderstand and so forth. But I mean, I don't think it's anything to worry about. I don't know. I guess maybe I'm too blindly optimistic. I'm like that dog in the house that's on fire saying everything's fine. That's kind of how I.
Yeah, I
that's
think
kinda how I
also
feel.
we'll just get used to it.
Yeah.
I mean, in many ways, it's the same thing with cars today. Like if you put your cars in the shop, they don't repair cars really. They just replace parts. And so what? I mean, that's good. They'll fix it faster and it'll be easier for them. It may be a little bit more wasteful, but who cares?
So this week, Mozilla announced that they came up with an AI to build websites. And this is for people who maybe they don't know how to build websites, and maybe they can make a business out of helping people making websites. Or maybe you are an entrepreneur and you need to make your own website and don't want to pay somebody. So I posted the link in the chat.
Yeah,
I
I've been
think
a
that
little bit in that business.
I think there's
So
gonna come a time when, with all this AI stuff, I think that what's going to happen, this is my opinion, and I could be wrong, but I think it's actually ultimately going to drive people away from technology because people want something authentic and real to interact with and not a machine. I think that's what's probably likely going to happen. Or maybe there'll be some
yes,
sort of a bifurcation of society where some people just want to be plugged into the matrix and some people will not be interested in that at all and will want only authentic. And I think it'll all even itself out at the end, but I think there'll probably be some other pains that we'll have to go through. And I don't know what that's going to be.
I mean that already exists today. If you take
Sure.
if you buy furniture from IKEA, for example, or if you buy furniture made like in a custom piece of furniture made in a wood shop with proper, it's much more expensive uh, and hard to get.
Quality
And
too.
right,
Yeah.
so
If you remember Demolition Man, that is like part of the premise of Demolition Man,
mhm.
about how like people in the future, everything's controlled, like food wise, so there's no alcohol consumption.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's people living out in the outskirts of society, and they're eating meat, they're drinking alcohol,
Red meat.
red meat,
Yeah,
because of course, I mean, they're not gonna have the resources
beef.
to
Oh,
farm cows.
They don't have the special toilets.
right. No.
And then and at one part somebody says, "Well, I choose to be here, not part of society, because I don't want to live in that sanitized society."
Yeah. I think there's something to be said for the randomness of life and chance and risk. I think without those, I think that life can be pretty sad and miserable, really. Because I mean, I don't know. I always kind of like the idea of, I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know how long I have. I don't know if like my body's developing something like, that I don't want to know. I guess I want to be like, poof, surprise. I'd rather have that, I think, than
Okay.
anything else. But that's me.
I'd like to be told if I have, some sort of cancer. Yeah.
Well, I'd keep it a secret anyway, though. So what's the point? Wouldn't tell anybody.
No,
Yeah, I mean, a
I'm
lot
not.
of AI is the boogeyman. It's Adam made a comment in here about you know what financial systems of capitalist infinite growth is mindset has caused and caused more damage than AI, but we worry about the AI replacing people and not the workforce reduction for profits. And it's a boogeyman. I mean, most of the AI right now really isn't AI as we think of it, but because it does fantastic stuff like these AI art sites and chat GPT can somewhat fix a novel or give you words to say in a speech, but is that truly AI or what is also referred to what is machine learning? But we need a boogeyman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I think. I think it's nothing. I think it's nothing to get your get all wrapped around the axle about, because I think it'll work itself out. I think, um, in a free society, I think the market will dictate ultimately, and as long as you don't have the I don't know. I know. Adam Grubb says unregulated financial systems and capitalist infinite growth mindset has caused and will cause more damage than AI, except that capitalism has brought more people out of poverty than any other system. So I'll kind of go with that system over any other. But yeah,
I would just point out exploited developing countries.
oh yeah, no, I think yes, there's that where people exploitation, but then so yeah, that's a
Exploited
philosophical thing,
by developed world
right?
multinational companies.
So when companies get too large and become governments in and of themselves, that's a problem. And I think,
Definitely a
and
problem.
so that I think, yes, because exploitation of anybody, capitalism without a moral framework is going to lead to destruction. But as long as you have the moral framework, then it's not a problem. But then again, that's a philosophical issue that I don't think we can solve on a Linux Saloon. That's for us to be involved in.
Sorry, Nate. I don't mean to be. You know
No.
what it is? You know what I think it is? It's Steve's red shirt. It's bloody red. It's making me angry.
It could be. But yeah, so I think, anyway, and I don't know. I think that's another frightening thing. And Joseph says AI may eventually replace the court's jury system. That scares me too. I think the human experience is more important than anything else. I don't think technology. I love technology, but I think once technology is more important than the human experience, and that's anything, like, greed or financial, exploitation of people. Like once you make people less important, then I think that's when it becomes bad. So I think you have, I think you got to have people are number one, and otherwise none of this matters, I think.
What was an AI stuff kind of disputed in the Minority Report? Putting people in jail before it happened.
Yeah, see, I don't like that either. They think you're.
I don't know if you remember the movie. Oh no, I forgot the movie with the computer connected to like missiles and warheads.
Oh, yeah, War Games.
War Games. And remember when they were saying, "Oh, we'll just call up the people and tell them not to shoot, not to launch the missiles," and they're like, "No, everything's connected to the computer. The computer is in charge of everything."
Yeah, I don't know. I can see it as a good thing, but I can see it as a really bad thing. Because if the computer will keep us from killing each other, or the computer can decide to turn on us. Is AI going to be Skynet or Star Trek? I guess that's really the question. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
true.
But
and with that, cue Terminator music.
Yeah. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's so somber. I love that song, but it's so sad.
It is. Yeah, it's a very well written piece of music for sure. Well, on that, we should probably move on. Apparently, I think some of this conversation we had, I think maybe drove some people away based on the chat there. But I don't know. Got too serious, too far away from tech. But next week we're going to be talking about. We're going to review the applications that we talked about over the course of the year. And are we still using them now, or are we already planning on using them if we haven't gotten to it yet? So that's what's going on next week. We do have a Linux Saloon calendar, so I think till the end of the year, I think it's all planned out. I think January the 6th, we're probably not gonna have a show. I'm gonna just have one down week or whatever, so I can. No, because then we'll resume in the new year on. Oops, I hit the wrong button here. Then resume in the new year on the 13th, after in January. So nothing on the 6th, but the 13th we'll have. So if that helps anybody out. So next week will be the applications in review, and then on the 23rd. Applications in review next week, and then on the 30th we're going to do distributions in review. Are we still using any of them? Do we have any of them running in VMs? Are we checking them out still, kind of monitoring them and whatnot? So that's what we'll do. But just kind of review the year on of stuff, because I think it's kind of fun. Otherwise, why else keep show notes from week to week if we can't use them for something, right? But if you have any suggestions, discussions, distributions, applications, or poll ideas, send to suggestions@linuxsaloon.com, or you can tag somebody in the Telegram chat or someplace else. So as long as I get it, that'll work out. With that, we'll go on to last call. I don't know if anybody had anything they want to talk about. Vince, I know that you're kind of a floater in and out. I don't know if you had anything exciting you want to share with the crowd.
Not really. I've just been playing the games a bit. That's on Windows. I've been playing around with some Dockers. I heard about a container that I want to try. called Image, IMMICH or something. It's like a Google Photos replacement, but it also incorporates like AI, so face detection and stuff in your photos. So if I get some time, I'm going to try and spin that up, but I haven't yet.
Will it detect if you have a terminal illness too?
No, I'm not quite sure. But I was looking at the documentation. It looks really well documented, so it's looking promising. I'll let you know.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. I hope you can come back and share how that goes. Steve, I don't know if you had anything you want to share, maybe about tomorrow.
This could be about Santa's wish list.
Santa's wish list.
Or what your Santa list is like.
Oh, I think Santa wishes for us to all be well behaved. I think.
And then just have fun conversation.
Oh, good.
About destroying the world, whatever.
Okay. A fun conversation about the end of the world and AI and what it's going to bring, whatever, I guess.
And Vince is going to save us all.
Remember when it was cryptocurrency that we're all concerned about?
Yeah.
Okay. That's kind of how I feel about AI. Oh, yes, NFTs. Yes, that was going to change everything. NFTs. Well, excellent. And that's tomorrow at what time?
8:30ish.
Okay.
Hopefully there's no furnace problem or anything else, then
okay, well,
we'll be ready to go.
Here's hoping. Swift. If anything you want to share before we close everything out here?
Not in particular. Just happy with the show. Glad we got some good framework and soulless conversation. So
yeah, I agree. Good tech talk. I think I don't know how much I like the AI talk, but it's a thing to talk about. It's good to talk about ideas, even if you don't necessarily like them. I think.
Right.
Yeah. Helps to it's okay to be wrong. I think. Jinda. I don't know if you had anything you want to share before we close this bugger out. Can you say bugger? Or is that a swear word in
maybe in a foreign language? I don't know.
British English bugger. I don't know. I apologize for this.
I got nothing except for try to watch Steve's podcast in the morning.
Right. Excellent. Magnus, he always has something insightful to say.
Yeah, go do the 2024 poll. See if you can predict the future. And yeah, I don't have anything else.
I know I can't. I get things wrong a lot.
Well, you actually you had the lead for a long time on the 2023 poll.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
So, but
well, hot dog.
I've been searching for an existing laptop vendor that began making Linux laptops this year, and I couldn't find any. So that made more than 50% of the participants share the first place. So, yeah.
I think Framework's pretty close. I don't know what the...
Well, Framework has been making Linux laptops last year too, right? And the year before that.
Yep.
I was just saying an existing laptop vendor that began also making Linux laptops.
Oh, okay.
And that I was searching a lot for that, and I haven't been able to find any. So it was a stupid question because, I had to. How do you know? There could be some small vendor somewhere that began making a Linux laptop, and I can't be sure that didn't happen. But I just think it didn't happen this year. So
there we go.
Oh, so I do have something to say. I'm so grateful for this reminder. I have a Telegram group entitled For the Nerds, and you guys are welcome to join. And
is it for
be
the
a part
nerds
of that group as well? Yes, sir.
I know I'm in that group.
Yes,
I lurk a lot.
appreciate having you there as well. Thank you so much.
I'll join that.
Oh, and also, Jenny, you put out there the Atlanta Linux Enthusiast group. They meet, I think, tomorrow at 3 p.m.
They are awesome.
Yep. And let's see. Cruz, I don't know if you had anything else you want to kick in there to say. Say howdy. or buy, whatever. It's all good. You don't have to.
No, nothing really to add at this time.
Well, thank you for being here. Appreciate having the extra tile or whatever in the Zoom chat. So that's nice. So thanks for being here, and hope to see you next week. Well, Eris, I appreciate all the work that you've done, and also keep me on track here when I put together the wrong show notes this morning. So so thank you for putting me back on track.
Thank you for keeping this going.
Yeah, appreciate you being here, and everybody. So I'm part of a.
Thank you, Nate.
Yeah, I'm part of a podcast called Linux Out Loud. We chat about things. I think the last episode that came out, we had Bill. There's 4 of us. It was quite the mess. So if you want to check that out, it's on the YouTubes and elsewhere. Linux User Space, check out that. It's a great podcast. So they have a GNOME history episode coming out this Monday. After that, I think a year-end break. So they're good about those breaks. They get their breaks in. So good for them. I have a website called keyboardnate.com. Sometimes I release stuff, when I'm not up to my eyeballs in busyness. So Linux Saloon is part of the Tux Digital Network. Check out more great shows at tuxdigital.com. I want to thank you all for your support, however you do it, being a part of the conversation in both the Zoom meeting and the YouTube stream, as well as everyone for watching the show after the fact. I want to thank everyone involved in making the Linux and open source tools possible for us to not only have this conversation, but also to have fun and enjoy our technology. Linux truly puts personal back into personal computers. Thank you for stopping by. Be sure to tip your developers, and please remember to Linux responsibly. Until next time, see yas.
Hey, everybody.
Bye.
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 See yas.
I hate Steve.
How can you hate Steve? He's got
Good night,
the
everybody.
I hope that made it. Did it make it?
I don't know.
Oh, it did. It did. And
Oh,